Tanium gives you all this real-time data about your environment, but which data should I look at today? If only Tanium could tell me what needs attention. Well, now we can. Watch the demo on today's Tanium Tech Talk. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone. You know, we just passed Christmas here in the US, and imagine that you got a set of tools as a gift. Now, you might be thinking, what could I do with this screwdriver? Well, you could tighten those loose handles on the kitchen cabinets. What do I do with this hammer? Well, you could hang those pictures that have been hanging in the closet for 2 years. And what about this level? Well, that level's not going to fix your crazy uncle. There's some things tools just can't fix. But here's the thing. We have this amazing Tanium tool set, and sometimes you open the Tanium console and you're just wondering, what can I fix today? What needs attention? Well, we're going to give you that answer as we look at the latest release in autonomous endpoint management, AEM. That's our theme lately. And we call this one Guide. And Kat is back to give us a demo. And we have a new guest today, Navneet. So please introduce yourselves for our audience.
Hey, Ashley. Thank you for having me back again today. I'm very excited to be here, this time talking about AEM Guide, and so excited to show you what we are providing for our customers now to help them in using all of the different capabilities that Tanium offers.
Thanks, Ashley. It's great to be here. Caught a couple of these Tanium Tech Talks and exciting to be here today. Hey, everyone. I'm Navneet. I'm the product lead for Guide and AI initiatives within Tanium.
Well, welcome to the show, especially you, Navneet, your first time, and you're recent to Tanium. How long have you been here now?
I've been here shy for 6 months now.
Well, that's pretty exciting to come straight into a new role and get to play with the cool new stuff like this. So we're going to start with you today. So what is Tanium Guide?
Actually, I'll start slightly different with why we built Tanium Guide and what are the customer problems we're seeing, right? So when I talk to customers, a couple of things that always come back as themes are, hey, there's information overload. There's too much to do. Customers don't want to accidentally stumble across issues. They want to be aware of best practices, but very specific to their environment, right? We've always had feed. We've had community articles. We've had new feature announcements. Customers told us they want to see more powerful notifications relevant to their specific environment, right? So we added Guardian a while ago, where you can see notifications on emerging threats augmented with human research. With Guide, we've really doubled down in this direction. So with Guide, we're bringing together existing feed notifications, Guardian notifications, and then adding environment-specific notifications called guidance and observations. Guide is really our way of proactively alerting customers on issues affecting their environment and helping them resolve it as well, right? We bring to notice patterns and trends.
So that's good to hear, Navneet. And if I can just recap for our viewers, because there's some folks who've been with us a long time, some people just new with us, and till we go back, we used to have this bell icon that showed up a few years ago up in the corner of the console. That was the feed notifications, like, hey, here's an interesting article, maybe go learn something about Tanium. And then we had Guardian, which was kind of those security alerts that would link you to a dashboard to show you here's what's going on in the industry with security right now and where it's actually in your environment, which was really cool. So Guide now builds on top of that. You said there's two additional, I didn't catch those. If you could repeat those for us and say, what are those two new kinds of notifications that we'll get there?
Absolutely. So I think to go to your point, right, we had a bell icon, we had the lightning bolt. Now we have a new compass icon, and this is what customers are going to be seeing as Guide. And the two new notification categories we have here are guidance and observations. So guidance is our first category where we point you towards any issues in your environment and not stop there, but tell you what's the immediate next step you can take to kind of go resolve these, right? And observations are where we periodically look at your environment, look at the data, and then tell you what kind of patterns, trends, or anomalies exist, and then point you towards the next step where you can discover more and investigate.
So where Guardian was kind of security specific, it sounds like these are broader now. So I can get
Exactly.
contextualized recommendations within my own environment.
Correct.
Cool. So what are some examples of some of the things that we could see there?
Yeah, so let me give you an example of one of the initial use cases we're looking at, right? So we have the enforce module, and then you can go look at notifications that tell you whether your Windows Defender signatures are out of date. So we keep track of this for you. And let's say your Windows signature, Defender signature are out of date. We track that for you. And when it exceeds a particular threshold, we will notify you. So this is going to be very specific to the devices you have access to your environment and the state of those devices. And it's also not going to be noisy. We make sure to have the right level of threshold, so you're only notified when it's relevant to you.
As with most releases, I'm guessing that customers have gotten an early preview. What kind of things did you hear from those customers?
Thanks to the customers who spent a lot of time previewing these features with us, we learned a lot, and we've brought their feedback into the product as well. Right. So the first thing I want to kind of flag is customers resonated with the proactive nature of these notifications, right? They liked that they wouldn't have to stumble across issues. The other thing that they liked is the refreshed UI we've built and the ability to filter based on what's important to them, set those preferences. I would also like to share one of these instances customers noticed when they previewed this feature with us. So one of our customers in the healthcare industry used Tanium to set up Defender signatures and Intune to manage them, and was pleasantly surprised to see the tracking that called Defender signatures out of date and was able to then go resolve the situation proactively. So customers love it, and they're looking forward to more use cases as we build this out.
Kat, I'm really interested to see what this looks like. Thank you for the overview, Navneet. So now what I'd like to do is go show this to people, because we're going to spend a lot of time on the right top corner of our UI on those little icons that maybe you've not noticed or paid attention to those. And today we want to dig in there and see what we can find and how to tune that. So take it away, Kat.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Navneet. Appreciate that wonderful overview of what Guide is and why we built it. Getting into where you can find it in your console and how to interact with it. As Ashley and Navneet mentioned, we started with that bell icon. We added in the lightning bolts in the upper right. Well, now we don't have that bell icon anymore. You'll see our new compass icon that represents Guide, building upon that base of feed. And if you navigate to this icon, you'll see an improved and streamlined UI with clear indications of what types of notifications are surfacing, easy filters on the ones that you care about most, and detailed information about what is showing up in your environment and what you can do next. So digging into what Navneet was talking about with our Defender use case, if your environment reaches our Tanium defined threshold, we will surface up one of two notifications. So on top of the underlying data that we are triggering off of, we are also looking at your current enforce settings and determining if you have automatic platform updates enabled for Windows Defender. If you do not have that setting enabled in enforce settings, we will surface up our guidance. These are the ones that are not only informational, but directly actionable from the notification. So in this case, we are showing that 11% of endpoints in this environment are running out of date Defender definitions. Right from this notification, we can pivot to see more details about the endpoints that are affected so that we can help us make a decision about what to do next. But taking that a step further, we offer an option to remediate that in your environment. So from the notification itself, by clicking on the Enable Updates button, you can enable that setting in Enforce to configure automatic platform updates. This way, you can take the information that we're providing and then make a decision and act right from the notification. For our observation notifications, the first use case that we're surfacing up is around benchmark. So we know with benchmark, you get a lot of really good data and you get a lot of really good information, but it can be hard to go in and monitor it on a day-to-day basis, seeing if there is a significant change that you need to investigate further. Now, you don't have to spend all day in your benchmark console seeing if something changed. We will notify you if there is a significant increase in your risk score or a significant decrease in your risk score percentile, and then take you right from that notification into benchmark to investigate further. This way, you're not spending all day on these pages. but you're able to get proactively notified if there's something you need to pay attention to. This frees you up to be able to do your other day-to-day tasks that require a little bit more direct input, a little bit more admin control.
All right, so I gotta say something on the observations here. So it's detecting trends in your environment, like up and down in these risk scores, kind of like, I'm just guessing, like my Apple Health app that I use to track certain biometrics. After Thanksgiving and Christmas, it says, I noticed a different trend in your weight. So it's like there's a new trend we've noticed. You've been eating a lot lately. So here we can see where our risk appetite stands, because there's been trends up or down, either good news that we want to report to management or bad news we want to fix before they catch it.
Absolutely. And you can go right from those notifications, keeping the context that you have by keeping the sidebar open to that page to investigate further. And at the bottom, if you're not familiar with Benchmark, we do show you the endpoints that are contributing the most to that risk score in the change so that you can specifically investigate those ones further.
So if I look at the right side here, we've got the guidance and observations. So if I'm trying to figure out the difference between the two, it looks like observations aren't really going to do anything. It's just saying, hey, you might take a look at this, but the guidance has some kind of action and attached to it. Is that kind of the difference?
That's correct. So the guidances are going to be directly actionable from the notification, where we'll either link you to a page to deploy an action, link you to an adaptive action modal, or link you to be able to take a setting change. The observations require a little bit more investigation and decisions to be made on next steps, but we try to offer as much information as possible to help make those decisions and identify those next steps.
I've got a question before another question. So when should customers start to see this in their environment?
These new features, these new UI components have been released to all of our cloud customers at this time. The one thing to keep in mind with some of these guidance and observation notifications is they are based off of these environmental factors. So if your environment isn't experiencing one of these significant changes, if your Defender definitions aren't out of date, if your risk score isn't changing significantly, then you might not see these notifications. That doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means that your environment is in a good state and doesn't need these notifications. At this time, this will also only service up for our Enforce and Benchmark customers. We'll get the guidance and observations, but we are hoping to expand to additional modules in the future, and you should see additional use cases being serviced.
Yeah, I can just think, especially if I'm a new customer and I've just gotten Tanium, maybe I did a POC, maybe I didn't, and there's all these things now that I have, and I'm not aware maybe of, I missed a setting somewhere buried in a module that I should have been doing this, like having, for example, Enforce automatically deploy my and maybe I want to drill in a little bit on this, because I know with Enforce we can actually use Tanium file handling to distribute those updates for the definitions. Is that what this is speaking to?
So in this particular use case, it will take the setting in Enforce settings that exist today and enable it so that we do automatic updates for your environment for Windows Defender definitions. If that setting is already enabled, we will surface up an observation if we do see endpoints that are still having out-of-date Windows Defender definitions. So you can investigate a little bit further of what's going on.
Ah, okay. So if the setting's already enabled, there's something else going on that's not getting there, or they're not getting updated for some reason. So that's more of an observation. But if the setting needs to be able to, that's in guide. Got it. Okay. That's
Exactly.
pretty cool. Yeah. So thank you for this. Oh, you know what? I've got another question before we go back to Navneet. All right. I am a patch admin, or maybe deploy, and Enforce or Benchmark are really not in my purview of Tanium. Am I still going to see all these updates for other modules maybe that I don't have RBAC for?
Always bringing up the RBAC, Ashley, which I love. Thank you. I always love to be included. So no, we did not want to make these noisy. We wanted to make them impactful, not just for the overall environment, but to each individual user. So each of these notifications will only surface up if you have access to the underlying data, is scoped to your machines. So if I only have access to 100 machines, I may get a notification if 10 machines are affected, whereas a full admin that has access to 100,000 machines might not get that notification if only 10 machines are affected, because it is scoped to the machines that you have access to, and it will only show up if you already have access to the underlying data. And for the guidance options that have the actions directly available, those will only surface if you already have the ability to take the action. So you won't see them if you don't have access to it or don't have access to take the action.
Okay, so now let's say I'm a Tanium administrator and I've got keys to everything, but that's not part of my daily role. And I know there's somebody else on my team that's going to handle all the comply notifications, let's say. How can I tune what things show up in my, it's not calling a feed now, the guide. So what shows up in my guidance, can I tune what shows up there?
Yes, so every user can customize their own guide experience. You have two ways that you can do that. You can either do that from the sidebar if you go to the three dots and go to Manage Notifications, or if you go to our overview page, which you'll see that we have the same compass icon on the left-hand side where you can get to the overview page for all notifications. If you go to the gear icon, this is your preferences. This is your settings. So the appearance selection we've had already in feed, but we've taken the preferences for notifications a step further. Now it's not just per topic, but we have made the distinction of being able to select per topic and grouped to guidance and observations or community articles and new feature announcements. So if, for example, you wanted to receive guidance and observation notifications for all the solutions that you have access to, and in this environment, I'm an admin, so I can see all of them, you can do that. But you can also say, maybe I don't want to receive the community articles and new feature announcements for everything. I just want to receive the ones that would go to general, that are impactful to all customers, and not the ones that are for comply or connect. Now you have that granularity where you can choose to receive notifications broken out just not by just topic, but also by specific categories.
Nice. That's pretty flexible. Yeah, and this view is really snazzy. I like this. What's up with the daisy icons on the status? What does that mean?
So that was one area that we took the customer feedback during private preview. Our initial status icon was a little bit more alarming, and these are nothing to be alarmed about. This status just means that it's an active notification. So that was one of the changes we made during private preview. But for our guidance and observation notifications, when those thresholds are met in the environment, it will reach an active state and surface up. But if you make a change in your environment, say you enabled the automatic updates, or you did something to change your risk score, and that threshold is no longer met, these notifications will reach a resolved state. This way, it's always scoped to what is most valuable to you. It's not showing stale information. If you're seeing it as an active status, it is still actively reaching that threshold.
Another question here. Let's say I'm a Tanium admin and I've got like a large global company and I've got site admins who aren't really going to have kind of that purview as an admin where they're going to really be involved in administering modules or deploying these fixes that would be more of a central function. Is there a way that I can just kind of like, I hate to say this, it's a brand new feature. That's what we're talking about today, but can I turn it off for some people who maybe shouldn't see that?
Yes. So it will be scoped to what you have access to, but we have heard from customers that they want control. That's one of the core tenets of AEM, and that's one of the things that we've heard with Feed in the past. So we built that in when we built in Guide. If you're an admin in the Tanium console, on the Guide overview page, you will see this administration button. If you navigate to this page, you will see all of the potential notifications that could surface up in this environment. And these will show details about what the notification is, what the trigger condition is, and for our guidances, what the action that we would recommend or suggest might be. You can see here with the enforce use case, we added that level of granularity that if you wanted to surface up when the Defender definitions are out of date, but not have the notification surface up that has the action directly linked to it, you can come to this page and stop the guidance separate and distinct from the observation. This way, you can have that control of, I want people to be notified if there's something out of date, but I don't want them to take action directly from the notification.
All right, so I want to pause here and clarify this. So because this is a demo, it's a brand new thing that just came out. The examples that we looked at were these exact things here. But if I'm following you, this is a list of like all possible kinds of notifications. This is not really related to the little alert that we just saw, because those alerts were demonstrating these kinds of kind of categories or classes of alerts. So what I'm looking at here, is this like a list of all possible kinds of alerts? And we're just got a couple of them here as we're just getting started. But is that what, am I following that correctly?
Yeah, so these directly relate to the notifications that we see today in this environment. So if we look at the guidance that's surfacing up for Windows Defender definitions, if I wanted to stop that from showing up for any user, I could come into this page as an admin and stop this notification, and it would disappear for all users. And it would not appear again until we came back and re-enabled it.
Okay. So I'm going to pivot to Navneet for a second, because I think this is probably his department to answer this next question. So we've got 3 different kinds of things here that we're alerting on, and I want to make sure that our audience is clear. This autonomous endpoint management stuff, if we dropped it all at once, it would be overwhelming. There's just so much of it. So we're kind of trickling it out a little piece at a time. So far for guide here, it looks like we've just got these 3 alert types. So Navneet, my question to you is, what's next as far as like what kinds of alerts are we expecting here as things grow and develop?
Yeah, so I think guide is that digest of info where customers always end up going to see whether they need to review something within the console or outside, right? So with that vision in mind, we want to support use cases all across Tanium, right? So the next set of use cases will be across endpoint management, risk and compliance, and more modules. We're only getting started with Enforce and Benchmark, and we wanted to get it to you right away. So we're coming out with more and more modules and use cases. And we're also looking into building things where you can build custom alerts for yourself on reports that you're monitoring and want to be proactively notified on, making the thresholds editable for these guidances and observations. So those are some of the things that are coming up here.
All right, so I'm just imagining like deploy and patch, like, hey, Google Chrome has its 47th 0 day this week. Would you like to push an update to Chrome or something like, hey, it's Patch Tuesday, and here's the success rates across all of our customers. Do you want to go ahead and push it? Are those the kinds of things, like each module slowly going to get new stuff in there?
That's right. And we're always going to be focused at like problems, right? So if there are new CVs that are unpatched and your critical devices are going to be impacted by it, we want to bring that to your notice. If there are devices that are not ready for an update due to some reason, and we know what the reason is, and we can help you resolve that before you target that device with an update, then we want to bring that up to you. So we're focused on what problems and issues that we can proactively let customers know, with a line of sight on how they can get out of it.
So Kat, back to you here. As far as like requirements when this comes into our environment, is there, I guess I'll notice the little compass icon up there instead of the bell. And is there anything else, like, is there anything I need to do to tune this or tweak this in my environment to make things work just out of the box?
Yeah, so once you see the compass icon showing up in your environment, that means that you have guide. So one requirement, of course, for these specific use cases, you need either Enforce, Benchmark, or both to be able to surface up the initial use cases. As we expand to more modules, we will add those into our release notes so that you can see that we've added additional support for more use cases, and you can continue to review and make sure that you have those particular modules. The other dependency that I want to call out, and a question that we did get as part of private preview, is that we do require API tokens to be created for these use cases to surface. And the way that these work is when you sign into the Go-Tanium console, We use this API token to determine whether or not to surface up any notifications to you. We scope these notifications to what you have access to, so it's only relevant to you. This means that we need to be able to review the environment with your current access. This will not make any changes on your behalf. It is still required if we surface up a guidance for you to go in and make the change from the notification or manually in the environment. These are not making changes. And they also can't be accessed from externally. But you will see new API tokens being created with the note of system use only for AEM Guide, indicating that we are using them just to query the environment and make sure that there are no notifications to surface up, or if there are any notifications, that we're surfacing them up to the right people.
Thank you for that little tidbit, because I can imagine somebody just cruising through their API token console one day. Oh, let's go check. Oh, wait, where did all these things come from? Well, it already says it's AEM Guide, but I appreciate that. So that's normal, and we should expect to see that. That's helpful.
Absolutely. And you'll see there's no trusted IP addresses linked with them, so they're not able to be used externally. If they are deleted, we will recreate them the next time the user signs in, and Guide will continue to function.
Now, I'm guessing these have some kind of an expiration date. Do they kind of clean out automatically?
They do. They clean up every 24 hours. And then if you sign back in, they will surface up again.
All right. Well, thanks, Kat. And back to you, Navneet. So we've talked a little bit about what's coming, and we've talked a little bit about preview feedback. Anything else you want to leave our audience with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think we showed this to a few folks at Converge, and one thing I want to kind of paint the future with is tying Guide back to AEM, right? Guide is the very beginning of AEM. You have Automate out there, you have Guide now, but the goal is to kind of go all the way from recommendations to getting to the desired state. So we're building the blocks of it, and with Guide and the other features and the improvements we're building here, we want to be able to point you to an issue and make it as simple for you to kind of be aware of the issue and understand our recommendation and act on it. So you will see more things coming into Guide, like confidence scores, and how you can kind of take this recommendation, how can you roll it out, how can you roll it out safely and get to the final desired state. So yeah.
I remember after we were casting this vision for AEM last year at Converge, and they were kind of teasing this idea: what if you come into your Tanium console when it says, hey, there's this 0 day that's going around in your environment, kind of like we looked at with Guardian, but then instead of just saying here's a dashboard to show you how bad it is, it would automatically link to like a playbook and automate that have multiple step operation to remediate it and so forth. So this is that kind of that notification component, it sounds like, to say, hey, here's something you really should look at this. So it sounds like there's a lot, like you said, you're just putting the pieces together, and once AEM gets all these pieces together, it's like Voltron, right? We put them all together and wow, look at this. That's pretty cool. Well, thank you both for joining us on the show today. And Navneet, welcome to Tanium. And you've got a lot of fun here. Kat, again, great demo. Thank you both for joining us. And for those of you who are watching, you know what's coming next. In the notes below, there's a bunch of links for you to explore. As you can imagine, this is a new capability, so there's going to be docs pages, and there's going to be a release article over in the community. And hey, while you're over there at help.tanium.com, in the articles there for the resource articles, go ahead and go into the community and get started on earning your Titans points and your Titans badges, your Tanium Titans over there. We've seen a lot of uptick in community participation since Converge. A lot more people asking questions and answering questions and really interacting with one another to keep that buzz going that we had at Converge, connecting with one another. So I encourage you to go over there, check that out. And there's also an Automate gallery you can look at for getting some ideas there. And go ahead and ask your questions about, what are you planning to do with these new AEM capabilities like Guide. So thanks for joining us on today's Tanium Tech Talk. Until next time, go Tanium.